That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, y'all know what we've been doing lately is we've been going through looking at some high stakes redraft league ADP, acknowledging that no, it's not perfect. No, that's not exactly what's going to happen, but it's a pretty good baseline on what you should be expecting in terms of the projections for different offenses this upcoming season. And if you use that knowledge and your understanding of long-term situation outlook with contracts, with team situations, with head coaches, and really everything that bakes into a dynasty profile, I mean, you can have a decent understanding of how these players should be accurately valued in dynasty. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be diving in to where the current 2021 rookie class is going in those high stakes redraft leagues. We're going to be talking about what it should mean for where they're valued now in dynasty. But of course, before we do it, go down there, drop that like on this video. We are so close to 6,000 subscribers. And obviously, every time y'all drop a like on the video, it helps us get pushed out to new listeners. Leave a comment letting me know what you think is completely wrong with this redraft ADP, because I'm sure there's going to be something that you disagree with. And most importantly, tomorrow over there on Patreon on Wednesday, we are going to be coming out and making the announcement of our new Flock Patreon Startup Dynasty Draft. So if you've been wanting to get in a Flock Dynasty Patreon Startup, just please be on the lookout for the post there. I will post it both on Patreon and Discord, so you definitely won't miss it. And y'all know that it's first come, first serve. Obviously, I'm making sure that it's only people who have not been in a league prior, but those are going to be the people taking up the spots. So yeah, let's dive into this video. And nobody is going to be surprised to hear JaMarr Chase is being the highest drafted rookie right now in those high stakes redraft leagues. Now, I will say, I hate this JaMarr Chase draft price. Now, I know a lot of people are just going to be saying that I am being obnoxious and that I need to get over myself, but I cannot get behind the fact that JaMarr Chase is currently being drafted as the wide receiver 23 in fantasy drafts. Now, we've gone through and we've looked historically with what the highest drafted rookie coming into year one has actually done, and literally it has busted almost every single season over the past 10 years. And that is not necessarily to say that rookies are bad values in redraft leagues or that we over project them coming into year one. But what it says is it says we are very bad at projecting who that top rookie is going to be. I mean, go back to last year. How many people were projecting Justin Jefferson to be that top guy? How many people were projecting Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins to be contributors down the stretch? None of those players were really getting buzz at all. I mean, they were going extremely late in rookie drafts. Whereas, I mean, you had guys like Jerry Jeudy, you had guys like CeeDee Lamb, you had guys like Jalen Reagor going a little bit earlier on. So this is not me trying to say that JaMarr Chase is some bad player or me saying that JaMarr Chase is not going to have a great NFL career. What I'm saying is I think this redraft price is way too aggressive given the fact that we have had that historical context of us missing on that top rookie and having a hard time identifying who's actually going to produce in year one. So I think we would rather have some of the guys later on in this list at a much cheaper price, because you go through and you look at who JaMarr Chase is being drafted around. I mean, you have him being drafted in a range where he is consistently going before T. Higgins, Kenny Golladay, Kareem Hunt, and Brandon Ayuk. Now, I find it very hard to believe that JaMarr Chase is a better draft pick than these guys this upcoming season. But what this tells us in a dynasty standpoint is if this is the projection for JaMarr Chase in 2021, and he does come out and right away outproduces T. Higgins, outproduces Kareem Hunt, outproduces Brandon Ayuk, we know that that's going to catapult his dynasty value to a range where JaMarr Chase is going to be up there with a DK Metcalf and AJ Brown with where they were last offseason. So please keep that in mind when you value JaMarr Chase in dynasty. And that's how we're using this ADP. Like I said, guys, I mean, you don't have to agree with it. I really want to hear the places y'all don't agree with and you think we need to be overlooking, but you can use it just to go through and try to map out and go, okay, what if this does happen? What would happen to the player's dynasty value? And clearly with Chase, it would exponentially rise. Now, a player that we ranked aggressively in our dynasty rankings that came out over on Patreon a few days ago is we had Devonta Smith very high up in our overall wide receiver rankings. We had Devonta Smith as a low-end wide receiver 2, and that's higher than where a lot of people have him. And my explanation was saying, hey, well, look at where he's going right now in high stakes redraft leagues. This is a player being drafted at wide receiver 35, 84 overall. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound like a very high mark to anybody, but if you dive into the numbers and you look at the players he's going around, he is going right between DJ Chark, Robbie Anderson, and Jerry Jeudy. He is being drafted consistently ahead of Jerry Jeudy in redraft leagues this year. And we've been on record saying that I think Jerry Jeudy's a slightly overvalued asset in Dynasty. And I would be willing to bet in the majority of your Dynasty leagues, you could actually go out there and you could trade Jerry Jeudy for Devonta Smith right now. Devonta Smith in redraft leagues as a rookie is already being projected to outscore Jerry Jeudy this upcoming season. Now, I know that maybe you have a problem with this. Maybe you think that this is incorrect. And of course, we are not saying that this is perfect. I want to make sure that's the point here. But what we need to take away from it is we need to be looking at everything through a range of outcome sense. And if we are going baseline expectation that Devonta Smith and Jerry Jeudy are in a similar range of production this upcoming season, what happens to their respective dynasty values? Because I would argue if Jerry Jeudy comes out and after a very disappointing rookie season in terms of his actual production, and he posts a low-end wide receiver 3, high-end wide receiver 4 season in fantasy, Jerry Jeudy takes a significant hit in value. Where I would argue that if Devonta Smith comes out and he finishes as a low-end wide receiver 3 his rookie season, I mean, I do not think his value is going down at all. I think maybe it will see a slight tick up, but maybe I'm wrong here. Please let me know what y'all are thinking. I just think that Devonta Smith right now, with where he is going, I mean, he's going right next to DJ Chark. Earlier this offseason, I mean, DJ Chark was going ahead of Devonta Smith in startup drafts. So please understand the impact that this production would actually have on their dynasty value. All right, so now let's go over to Jaylen Waddle right now. Now, Jaylen Waddle is going in a range where it's pretty much the dead man zone of these redraft leagues. I mean, he is going at wide receiver 46 at 109 overall. Now, what is notable about this is he is going clearly, I mean, tiers ahead of Elijah Moore and Rashod Bateman. And this is exactly how we use this data. And now I know maybe it wasn't that useful in the case of a JaMarr Chase or a Devonta Smith, but this is extremely useful because when we were going through right after, the day after the NFL draft and trying to rank these rookies, I had Elijah Moore, Rashod Bateman, and Jaylen Waddle all in the same tier in fantasy. But now you're seeing that Jaylen Waddle is going significantly higher than the rest. And I know Dynasty is about the long game. I know Dynasty is about trying to get production on your roster for the next 5-6 years, not necessarily just this upcoming season. But we have to remember what matters, and that's Dynasty trade value throughout the course of the entire offseason. And I make this argument all the time. I mean, I am tired of people who were promoting to draft Jalen Reagor last offseason trying to tell you that, oh, I wasn't wrong. That wasn't a bad call. Jalen Reagor was a draft pick I was telling you to draft 3 years from now. Don't give up on Jalen Reagor yet. Well, it's a horrible call. If he doesn't produce year one, his value gets cut in half, and all of a sudden, you could have bought him at a massive discount. So yeah, that's a bad call. I mean, you should have said draft Brandon Ayuk, then trade Brandon Ayuk for Jalen Reagor and a future first-round pick. But regardless, what we need to be understanding is what this production would do for his dynasty value. And Jaylen Waddle going a clear tier ahead of all of those other wide receivers in Elijah Moore, Rashod Bateman, and Rondale Moore. He is going right behind Jarvis Landry and A.J. Dillon in fantasy drafts, and he's going right before Tony Pollard and Michael Gallup. Now, I think I would prefer Michael Gallup in my own redraft leagues. Keep in mind, Dynasty, yes, you definitely want Waddle, but we are talking about 2021 upcoming production. But what is notable here is going, hey, well, if Jaylen Waddle does hit this mark, I mean, this is a player that you can bet is going to increase in value this upcoming season. Now, let's go over and let's talk about Elijah Moore. So what's notable when we go down to Elijah Moore is you are finding that massive teardrop from Jaylen Waddle down to Moore. So this kind of tells us that in dynasty drafts where we had Elijah Moore and Jaylen Waddle neck and neck, I mean, I really hope we don't go back and look at any of our own rookie drafts where maybe I drafted Elijah Moore over Jaylen Waddle, because at this point, I think I would definitely not want that call. I think that there's a clear line between the two. But I mean, Elijah Moore and Rashod Bateman go back to back here. Elijah Moore currently going as the wide receiver 60 at 105 overall. And I mean, if I would have made this video 2 or 3 weeks ago before Jamison Crowder restructured his contract, I would be jumping up and down out of this chair screaming, draft draft. Go get Elijah Moore everywhere you can, because y'all know, I mean, at the beginning of this offseason, before Elijah Moore was really getting any hype at all, I was going, hell, this is a wide receiver that averaged 150 receiving yards in the SEC at 19, 20 years old. Go get him everywhere you can. Now, yes, he's a lot more expensive now, but this is a guy that I have loved. Now, I will say, for redraft leagues, I thought he was going to be extremely appealing because given that Jamison Crowder contract, I mean, there was no way Crowder was going to be making the team unless he restructured. I thought more than likely he was actually going to be getting cut as he had no leverage, and we see time and time again that NFL players are a little bit stubborn and not wanting to restructure. But Jamison Crowder coming back is going to hurt Elijah Moore this upcoming season by taking snaps away, taking targets away. And more importantly, I think Jamison Crowder maybe is going to steal some snaps in the slot. And what that's going to do is that's going to push Elijah Moore out to play the Z position. And I am unsure that Elijah Moore is going to be ready for that as early as his rookie season. I think he would have thrived in the slot right away. Eventually, he's going to get that role. So obviously in Dynasty, you can be excited. But maybe in the case of Elijah Moore, I mean, if you're having a rookie draft upcoming, or maybe you have a trade offer in your inbox right now, I think you actually go with the Jaylen Waddle at this moment. And then maybe if you like Elijah Moore for the long haul, you then try to trade Jaylen Waddle, get Elijah Moore plus another pick next offseason. All right, so now our next player, Rashod Bateman, literally going neck and neck here with Elijah Moore. And y'all know with Rashod Bateman, I mean, that's a wide receiver that I was screaming was overvalued before the NFL draft because some people were coming out and talking about him as someone that should be getting drafted higher than Devonta Smith. And I was saying, that is crazy. We want nothing to do with that. I don't want my name attached to that anywhere. So we screamed Rashod Bateman overvalued. But the correction has happened. His value has kind of crashed, landing in Baltimore. Now he's being drafted as wide receiver 61 in those high-stakes redraft leagues. And you see him in that same exact tier with a guy like Elijah Moore in Dynasty rookie drafts. And I think that is correct. And I'll say with a Rashod Bateman in a redraft format, I love this value. I mean, if you can get him actually at 156 overall, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I think that he is a massive steal there. But in reality, probably never going to fall that far if you're playing in leagues where people really know what they are doing. And here with Rashod Bateman, what's notable is he is going right neck and neck with Elijah Moore, with Rondale Moore. And that's what I want to be pointing out. Now, Rondale Moore going to be our last wide receiver that we are looking at, going at wide receiver 63, 174 overall, behind Nelson Agholor, Rashod Bateman, Elijah Moore. And with Rondale Moore, I mean, obviously we all know that there's one red flag on this profile, and that's the fact that he is 5'7", 181 pounds. I mean, if you could overlook that and you just look at the historic rookie season production for Rondale Moore, freshman season production at Purdue, where he averaged over 11 targets a game, 97 receiving yards a game, and you add on the rushing yards, he goes over 110, and the fact that he is a natural fit with Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, obviously, that's a wide receiver that you would fall in love with. Now, I will say the size is a little bit of concern. And here with Rondale Moore, I think what you actually do is if you really like him in the long haul, I agree with you. I think he is a very appealing wide receiver. But given the addition of both A.J. Green for this offense and you have Christian Kirk with 1 year left on his contract, I think maybe next offseason is the offseason to go out and buy in to a player like a Rondale Moore. Maybe he's a little bit cheaper. Maybe you get someone like a Jaylen Waddle now that should produce and you can make that switch quite easily. But maybe I am just underestimating the average Dynasty player with how they change their values. Now, I lied to you. Let's talk about one more wide receiver in Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall going way after all of these guys, which is surprising because Terrace Marshall, I think, has probably more upside than anybody we mentioned over the past 5 minutes, given his frame, given his story. I mean, a 5-star prospect that was hyper productive as soon as he got the opportunity, as soon as he wasn't playing alongside both JaMarr Chase and Justin Jefferson. He has alpha size, alpha athleticism. So I thought Terrace Marshall was going to be someone that people were more excited about. Maybe this just speaks to the fact that it is really hard to project him to get any type of volume this upcoming season, given the fact that you have DJ Moore there, you have Robbie Anderson, and you have Christian McCaffrey. Now, year 2 is obviously going to be the year for Terrace Marshall, as Robbie Anderson is playing under the last year of his contract this upcoming season. But in terms of the production in year 1 for Terrace Marshall, I think it's going to be very, very limited, but he should be productive when he gets on the field. It's just how many snaps can he actually see? Now, a few notable names that did not make this list are going to be Kadarius Toney, another first-round drafted wide receiver for the New York Giants. And with Kadarius Toney, the problem is just a horrendous wide receiver profile. That's a player that was drafted to be a little bit more, I don't want to call him a gadget guy, but someone that can bring value to your offense without soaking up volume. I mean, by stretching the field with his elite speed, by going through and playing on special teams, returning kicks, and etc. But with Kadarius Toney, I mean, that's a player that for fantasy purposes, not too exciting. Don't want really anything to do with outside of a best ball format. So I am just going to be overlooking him where we can. Now, some long shots that I do like. Tutu Atwell, I think, is intriguing. He is going completely undrafted in redraft leagues right now. But I will say, if you look at the metrics behind his numbers, he's actually an impressive player. Now, I know he weighs less than I do, so there's a reason why you saw him going at the end of the 4th round of some rookie drafts this past offseason. But that's a name to keep an eye on. I will say you're having to slightly move Dwayne Eskridge down, given the fact that he is getting limited reps right now in the offseason with a hamstring injury that he suffered. But yeah, I think that's all we should have for this video. Now, please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, letting me know what you're thinking. And yeah, I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. I want to give a big thank you for everyone joining the flock over there on Patreon. In Castro, Brian, Mike, Jay, Samuel, Billy, Rocky, Bailey, Zachary, and Andrew. Thank you, my dudes.